Welcome back to the B2B Marketing Asia podcast. I'm your host, Joe Escobedo. Joining me today is KJ Ong, who is the Enterprise Sales Account Manager at Adobe and the recipient of the Adobe 2020 Sales Achievement Award. KJ, thanks so much for being on the show.
Hey, thank you, Joe, and really thanks for the introduction. You really didn't need to, highlight the Sales Achievement Award, but it just goes to show the recognition, the hard work that I've put in is being recognized by the organization. So thank you again for your time today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd love to hear more about kind of your approach when it comes to doing B2B sales, particularly in APAC. What's worked for you in 2021? So we'll dive right into it. I'd love to understand, what is your process like? How do you even start when it comes to your sales planning?
I think a few things is that when we do a lot of the sales planning, we really try to move away just more what we call solution selling. In this day and age, there are so many solutions out there in the market that can do very similar things like what we at Adobe does. But why we generally approach is all around about value selling. And one of the key things that I always do before approaching to any of my customers is doing research, background research in terms of the company, who are the stakeholders that we are reaching out to, and really spending time looking at their annual report, reaching out to the ecosystem to really, really understand what is the business trying to achieve, understanding what is their goals, what is overall pain points that they have. And this is really just based on research, reach out to the ecosystem, or even scheduling a very quick 30 minutes discovery call with the customer itself. And by having all this, you at least formulate or you kind of crystallize with the customers to say that, look, by me understanding what are the pain points and challenges that you have, I can then come back to them to say, okay, these are some of the capabilities that when you work with Adobe, we can actually help you to solve or give you the advantages of using these capabilities to solve those business challenges. And once they agree to, in terms of the capabilities that they get, it's only then we will then share with them, okay, this is the solution that we have in place that help you achieve all these capabilities. And this has actually helped me because it's more of a value selling. It's more about sharing them. We really understand your business. And from there, the solution just comes second. It's just a natural sell to them. When we look at this, we also really try to understand because certain clients, they are using some form of other solutions out there in the market. So with that, then we really try to deep dive to really understand, what are the frustrations that they have, what custom integrations that they are doing, and really just highlighting to them, look, with Adobe, we really ease that out for you. It's all about ease of integration that we have. Things like we do have certain native integrations with popular CRM solutions out there in the market, be it like your Salesforce or even Microsoft Dynamics. Adobe is built on a very open ecosystem, and that's how we really connect things together.
Absolutely. That's a great tip around looking at annual reports to understand, particularly public companies. Is there any particular things you look at in terms of it? Is it like the CEO summary? Is it the actual updates within the sheet? What are some of the things you're looking at?
A few things is that really from a CEO at the C level, they usually talk about what is the long-term goal that they have, the long-term vision. And based on that, then you can see what are the company initiatives that they are really trying to grow, focus in for the next 2 to 3 years. And when you pick up those vision statements, it kind of trickles down to from the top down itself. And when you have deeper conversation, is that to the directors of the companies or the department heads, then that's where they will share with you, okay, that is the high level vision. And these are the current challenges that we have. And how do we actually saying that we can help you get there? And eventually we open the conversations to say that what is the return on investment like if you work on with a partnership with Adobe? So we are going beyond just solution selling, but to explain to them, look, the moment you onboard a solution, it takes time for you and the team to ramp up. So we'll do things like business case with the clients and also highlight to them, okay, what is the potential ROI forecast that they'll be getting at the end of 3 years? And we do this really in partnership with the customers. Many times it takes a team or people really coming together, sitting under the customers and really pull out certain key data points for us to formulate what we call the ROI forecast or business case for them.
I'd love to hear more about the ROI forecast you just mentioned. Going back to doing research, that works if it's a public company, but I was just on a call just about 10 minutes ago. What if it's a private company? What are some tips for doing research on private companies?
So certain research for private companies is one, it's always, we do spend time really reaching out to the prospects first, because like what I mentioned, we don't want to go in just to go like a solution selling. It's more like a business consultant, also value selling itself. So whenever we had conversation with private companies, is we really just want to spend time with them. Maybe just spend 30 minutes really understanding what are the current pain points that they have. And that's why business case is going to be important, because when we sit down with a business case with the customers, definitely there will be some NDA in place. And that's where they share certain private information with us. And when what we do with this information is that the moment we get some of the data points, we'll start benchmarking where are they currently at, together with some of the Adobe customers that we have already gotten with. Of course, the data that we share back with the prospect would definitely be blank out. But what we do is taking industry average of, let's say they are in FSI, how are other companies benchmark against that, and then use that to actually say with the customer to say this is ground zero for you. And potentially after 3 years, once you use our platform, everything's up and running, that is the potential revenue gain that you'll be getting it at the end of the day.
Got it. I think the NDA getting that signed is really smart because, like you said, they're far more open. Otherwise, they might not share as much information as you would like with them. So I'm hearing a couple of things popping up. I'm hearing the ROI forecast. I'm hearing the benchmarking. A lot of this is more on the rational side when it comes to B2B sales. Is that what you feel like is the strongest driver when it comes to closing larger deals?
Definitely, because at the end of the day, as what I mentioned, solution sell, everyone's just going down to capabilities line by line. But I guess at the end of the day, it's really showcasing to customers that we are also investing in their business, right? It's not just selling and then we forget about it. Ultimately, it's all about long-term partnership and getting that whole ROI business case set up. We will also use that to really reflect maybe a quarterly business review or a yearly review to see where are you at currently against what we initially built the business case for you. And then from there, we would probably sit down with you to suggest what are the different recommendations and really look at with the customers to say that we have been using our solution for the past 1 year. What are the roadblocks that actually preventing you to seeing more value of the platform? So ultimately, this really showcased to the customers that we are really investing our time to make them grow with you. And one thing that's very clear is that if you have seen a lot of companies, SMB companies, they are the next SMB companies in future. And that's why we are actually very vested to grow with them.
Yeah, it's quite a different approach selling to enterprises versus SMEs. What are some of the biggest differences you've seen in selling across different company sizes?
I guess from an enterprise level, sometimes it's very big organization. It's always talking about the business case and how they can see value in the long term. For SMB companies, is that they really want to aspire to be like the enterprise companies of tomorrow. The good for SMB companies, the biggest difference that I see is that the velocity, how fast they are willing to sign off on a deal, how fast they're willing to get their project starting, because they are on a very aggressive growth path. And that's why they are willing to maybe be a bit more bolder in terms of making decisions. But at the same time, the business case, or rather the ROI forecast, is something that they really want to fall back on, because with that, maybe the director levels can then bring it up to the C-suite to say, look, this is our strong business case, why we need to invest in a solution. And this is the potential gains that we can get at the end of 3 years. And this data points is backed by comparing against other enterprise customers as well. So it shows them that the dream that you want to reach there is possible. And the dream, you have to make it now.
I think, selling the vision or selling the dream is something that I've heard come up in other episodes, something that I haven't done very well previously, but I think it makes sense. And also this concept of leveling up too. So if you're an SMB and you want to reach kind of the Fortune 500, what's that going to take for you to get you there? And then from an enterprise level, if you are a director and you want to move up to VP, obviously, if this works out well for you, this is something going to help you move you up in your own personal ladder. So interesting to see how that plays a role in the different parts. One question I'd love to get your thoughts on is you mentioned, because it's a crowded space, there's a lot of competitors. How do you convince a client? You talked about kind of going and looking at some of their existing content and their existing data and doing some benchmarking. What are some other tips in terms of convincing a client to maybe move or switch to a different product or service?
So I guess like one thing is I'm going back to research, really understand what kind of technology stacks that they are currently using. And from there, when you approach to customers is that highlight to them, look, if these are some of the current challenges that they are currently facing, and that is actually hindering growth for them, I would usually ask them to say that, is this something that you want to maintain, continue facing all this challenge that is going to prevent you from scaling, or do you want to make the change right now? And then with this change, of course, there will be things like what's the cost of migration, what is the total cost of training a new team, and that's where the ROI comes in, because we help them to weigh up the pros and cons, and that actually gives them a very clear case to say that if I'm facing all these struggles today, and if I were to switch over to a newer platform, it can help me to address all these different pain points, give me new capabilities, and also at the same time, reduce my reliance on doing all the customization work. Because when you do customization, there's always things like maintaining that customization requirements that you did, right? So if we are be able to remove all of that, we also help the customers to say, okay, eventually we can help you to lower the total cost of ownership, free up your time, and also free up your team's time, because now they can be more efficient. By being more efficient, they can do more for you. And by doing more, you also help to generate more revenue for the business, because you are now spending your time better to do more efficient, more effective work for the organization.
Absolutely. And one thing you mentioned last time that really stuck with me is in terms of competition. I know we think of competition as, the peers in our space, but one thing that you mentioned last time is asking the question, what happens if you do nothing? So what happens if you don't take any action? What's going to happen to the company? And by asking that question, what do you think the impact is? Do you feel like people get to start thinking about whether or not investing in this is going to impact them, or because there's this inherent risk of investing in something new, is it going to go right or wrong? I guess tell me a bit more about that question, the psychology behind it. I think it's very fascinating.
I guess it's everyone is always resistant to change, right? It's like you forcing yourself to learn new things, to continue to upgrade. And that's where we also kind of position to the customers to say, at the end of the day, the decision is yours, right? If you are using a system in place currently, and if you're happy with it, to live with all these pain points, then sure, I shall not want to force you. At the end of the day, what we come in is really share with the customers. We can help you address all these pain points, give you additional capabilities that allows you to scale. And that's the reason of growth. If you're SMB customers, you also want to scale. If you're enterprise customer, the SMB customers today will eventually be catching up with you. So be it regardless, I guess every single company needs to evolve. They need to innovate. And even Adobe itself, you see all the different products that we have, right? We are constantly improving and innovating our products, because at the end of the day, if we don't improve, then there will always be people catching up with us. So yeah, if you don't action it today, yeah, maybe you do fine for the next 1 or 2 years, but look, somebody's at the back really might be catching up with you as well.
Great advice. I think these have been some super practical tips. Last question is, what number one advice would you give any APAC B2B salesperson for this rest of the year?
Stripe in, really select the kind of accounts that you want to be looking at, research as much as you want, because that's very important. And always create a very customized point of view. That's crucial, because if you present some things like something very generic, it's not going to work. But yeah, I only can give that much, because I don't want anyone to be following like me. Okay.
Absolutely. No, those are just been some super practical tips. KJ, I really, really appreciate you sharing all your insights on the show today.
Cool. Thank you, Joe.
Yes, thank you guys so much. And if you enjoyed today's episode, as always, feel free to share it with your colleagues, your bosses. Some really, really good tips in there. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.